To start the live streaming. Welcome at ROCKIT Innovation Center. Welcome at Financial Crime Experts Meetup. There is a great inspiring lineup prepared for you tonight and great opportunity to get insights and discuss how collaboration and technology can help fighting financial crime and fraud. It's good to see so many people here today, so many experts in fintech, banking, compliance, cybersecurity. So please don't miss a chance to meet like-minded people, your partners in crime, and stay for networking session after the event. So some drinks and snacks are served over there. And in a few moments, you will meet two great professionals. They will moderate the event. So let us make a warm welcome for Taavi Tamkivi, CEO at Salv.
Thank you.
And Eimantas Vytuvis, Director at Centre of Excellence in Anti-Money Laundering. You can take my microphone. It's ready, so
thank you.
The floor is yours. Good luck, enjoy the event.
Thank you for the intro. So I'm Taavi. I will start. We are co-hosting the event. First of all, thank you for ROCKIT to host us here. And also, as I noticed, this place is opened by Swedbank, so I'm a great fan of Swedbank as well, as they're one of the partners and oldest banks in Estonia, so I'm a great fan of those. Myself, I'm running a company, RegTech company in Estonia called Salv, which is doing AML products and platforms. And I'm a great fan of the crime fighting myself. I've been doing that for the last 15 years. And why we're here, like what's the goal of this event is just to get people together to think, to share experiences. Because what we do know is that criminals do it quite effectively. Maybe not here, maybe somewhere in the dark web, other places. And the only way how we can beat them is that we need to share our experience, technologies, knowledge, but also trust each other. And it's very hard to build trust just virtually. Once the trust is built face to face, then it's more sustainable to run it virtual as well. And we have many people listening the event here as well, over the video conferencing as well. So that's not only here from Lithuania, but also I think Latvia, Estonia, other countries in Europe are watching. So this event is also recorded, so please don't be just take care of that as well, don't be too open. But please think about the questions that you can ask from the presenters. Today we have 3 short talks, 10 minutes each. You have a chance to ask questions from all of these experts. And after that we will have a panel discussion about hot topics of FinCrime, data sharing, and other drivers of the crime and fighting. So that's enough from me for now. Handing it over to you.
Thank you, Taavi. Not a lot to say after you said everything, actually. So, first of all, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's really nice to see such a big community, AML, fraud experts community, coming here. And from the registration, we see that the topic is very hot. Yes, everyone is interesting, and I'm really happy that we managed to do it and to be here today. So thank you, ROCKIT. Thank you, Salv, for helping and supporting us for organizing this event. This is our first event as a Center of Excellence of Competence Center, yes, but definitely not the last. And stay tuned. We will invite all professionals and experts in the future. And I hope it's just the beginning of a nice cooperation with the Salv. So without further delay, as now we're already kind of late a bit, so I want to introduce our first speaker. It's my colleague, Elčin. Elčin will talk about fraud and why cooperation is a success in fighting financial crime.
Thank you, Eimantas. Thank you, Taavi. Hello, everyone. Laba diena, and tere to our Estonian colleagues. So today we'll talk about collaboration, why it's essential, why it's important to collaborate, especially when we're talking about financial crime prevention. Mother Nature already showed us, and wildlife scientists find out and explained why birds use the V-form formation while flying to their destination. So first of all, being a part of a bigger team, it's more effective. The effectiveness increases 70%. So compared with the lone bird, the flock of the birds spend less energy and flies more far in a flock compared to the one. The second one, all the birds in the flock have the same goal, but it might happen that one of the birds will separate from the flock. And despite the fact of having the same goal, it will be much more harder to reach the destination. So the birds decide again to join the flock and fly further. The next one, everyone knows that being a leader is a tough thing, is a hard work. So what birds are doing, they change the position during the flight many times, giving the opportunity to other birds to express or share their experience, expertise, and lead the whole flock towards the common goal. The next one, during the flight, everyone heard that birds honk very loudly. This is one of the main things, communication. So communication is crucial. And in order to be successful and reach the goal, we have to communicate, and communicate very often. Last but not least, the true care. Why? There might be instances when one bird from the flock would be injured, shot, or get ill. So it will leave the flock, but what will happen next? Two other birds will join that ill bird and will take care of it until whether it will die or will recover. So then they'll go back and join the flock. So when we're talking about financial crime prevention, good example of the not working. Okay. So we have some technical issues, but maybe I'll continue just the presentation. When we are going back to today's real life, there will be a next slide and a good example of perfect, I would say, collaboration between the public and the private sector. When the initiative from the Bank of Lithuania was supported because of different reasons, and the private sector and the public sector joined their forces and established the Center of Excellence in AML. It was not an easy task, yes, but everything is doable if you have a goal and you have a willingness to do it. So this is the structure, current structure of our center. Basically, we consist from 4 groups. It might be, you might think that they are all independent, but still they are interconnected. Because, as I already mentioned, you cannot fight, you cannot operate alone. It might be so that some legislative initiative will burn in the tactical group. So it will be realized by the legislative group and etc. There might be instances when some need of the technology would occur, so the technology group might take the support of the other group, and etc., and etc. But in this case, when we're talking about cooperation, first of all, I want to talk about the tactical cooperation group. Everyone is keen what is happening there. So within the center, I would say, is the safe place of exchanging information where everyone trusts, despite the fact that we are just 4 months, started our work, despite the fact that we are just a newborn baby, we have, I would say, reached the goal and have a safe place in order to communicate, to share information, and I will show you on the real example that we had quite recently. So, what happened during the summertime? The Lithuania and the customers of our banks and our customers were attacked by the phone scammers. Basically, it was well known. It appeared in all the media. Someone has to do with it something. So the center took the lead and gathered all the market participants involved in the financial crime prevention. So basically, the financial institutions, the commercial banks, the law enforcement institutions, so basically the FIU and the police, and Bank of Lithuania. So we gathered all those parties in one room in order to tackle the problem and solve it and probably put some actions into place. It was not an easy task because we were being free at that time, but I would say we managed to do it. So I will briefly present you the modus operandi of the crime. So through the so-called call centers, fraudsters made a contact to our customers in order to either approve some transaction and doing that also to find some data, reveal some data in order to then get into account of the customers. So basically, if they succeeded, the data was in the hands of the fraudsters. They connected to the banks of our customers and transferred everything what been on the accounts of our customers to the Bank D. That was happening because of the opportunity of instant payment. So everything was done just instantly. What happened next? Everyone knows probably. Funds were transferred either to banks, either to other payment institutions, either to cryptocurrency exchange platforms. Then were funds moved either to pockets of the criminals, either were transferred somewhere else. The loss was huge. It's approximately, I would say these are approximate numbers, but maybe even more. So we had to do something. So we joined our forces, we joined our effort, and together we decided to put those actions in place. So when we're talking about telephone fraud, the main thing is speed. The speed is essential here, and from that starting point, we started to think how we can tackle and how we can do it. So before that, there were no additional or opportunity to report fraud directly while calling the banks. We decided that the banks have to implement additional bottom while calling and reporting the crime in order to report the crime much more faster. And here I want to thank SEB Bank, who did it first. Swedbank did it second, but still that action was implemented, and if you will have any fraudsters calls, you can reach your banks much more faster and report the fact of the fraud much more faster. The next one, the Bank D. The Bank D, which was on the bottom, provided access to its internal fraud portal, where other banks had an opportunity to insert the data of fraudsters' accounts or the mule accounts, and etc. that allowed us, not us, but banks to react and block those accounts even faster. So to react, to make actions on the bank's D side even faster. The next one, the profile of the fraudster was identified. And the additional controls were put into place in the bank D. I will not go into the details, what and etc., because the issue is still evolving, and if I would be a criminal, I will definitely join that kind of event in order to, you know, find the latest information and adapt my crime in the future. So, what was did next? The profile of the victim was also identified, and the banks did their homework. They did the hard homework and provided that data to us. Not only to us, but also, I would say, they made a publicity attack via different media channels in order to inform the public about the crime, who might be the target, what is the essential elements of the crime. One of the essential elements was that the criminals were calling and speaking in Russian. Despite the fact that the customer said, oh, no, I don't speak Russian, they still insisted to speak in Russian and continue the conversation. Publicity campaign I already mentioned. The police activities. And here I want to thank also to our colleagues in the police who did a great job, the heavy job on their side to tackle that problem. Also cannot mention, but still, in the safe environment, in the tactical group, we know a little bit more what have been done, how the problem was tackled, and etc. And the strategic decision also been made that the AML Center would lead the program of the amendment of AML legislation, as currently financial institutions are limited in a way of passing information or exchanging information between one another. So we'll took that ball. It's a heavy one, but with the support of all of us, definitely we can do it. And here on that slide, also thanks to our colleagues from the police, we see the decrease in numbers followed by action. So everything what has been decided was implemented, and from the peak of the crimes, we see the significant decrease in numbers. I'm not saying that it's not happening, but still we were provided for some period of time when the numbers decreased drastically. So, without further ado, it's not easy to collaborate, communicate, but when we're talking about financial crime prevention, it's crucial for us to do it in order to succeed, because we are not competing, we're helping each other, we're helping the banks, the law enforcement, the society, who might be suffered from the bad guys. And here I want to thank to all the participants, the banks who've been involved in the group, the law enforcement, and also my colleagues who are also here. Thank you all. And it's just a small win, but going forward, there will be more and more wins and bigger wins that we may present in the future. So thank you all. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions, if I would.
Thank you. Thank you for all these great insights that you gave us, and it sounds like a real incredible startup story. You found the problem, you put together the team, and now it's resolved, and now you can go back to bank again. Do we have questions from the audience? Yeah. Yeah, there is like, as there are watchers on the video as well, it's good to ask questions through the microphone.
Hope it won't be in Estonian.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe I just give my own microphone.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask, like, from the perspective of investigation, did you consider to analyze also or include into the investigation teleservices providers like Telia or Tele2, like we have in Lithuania, since they should see the huge increase in the incoming calls from different locations and attacking their clients?
Thank you for your question, and this is what I then wanted to mention. Yes, those things were taken into account, and definitely those who investigated the cases, they do the necessary steps in order to contact and do the necessary things, from their side. But anyway, thanks, thanks for that.
Yes, and we have one more question over there. So.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I was wondering, did you manage to find the root cause how this happened? I don't know if you can disclose the details, but how did the fraudsters got the data for the people?
You mean, how did they manage to contact? Yes, we didn't analyze it, but still, we fully understand that a lot of data is available in the open source. So that might be one thing. And the other thing, we do have such a website where you can buy also data. So we didn't investigate it. That still, it's a part probably of the police investigations. They have to do it. We just can presume that the data was used from these sources. Thank you.
So thank you again, Elčin. Just small thank you present to you as well for the talk. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And so the next up, just to move on, we have a next speaker from Luminor Bank. And Linas will talk about fraud trends and impacts. Linas Sadeckas, over to you.
Yes, hello everyone. It's nice to see you here all. I hope you warmed up a bit. Very good presentation, Elčin. Thank you. Hello everyone who's watching us online. So I hope that we would have a good time, and you can take something from our today's presentations, that we can be at least small but one step ahead of fraudsters. So I'm Linas Sadeckas, Head of Fraud Risk Management Unit at Luminor Bank, and today's my presentation is related with latest fraud trends and impacts. So I believe that let's get started. Where we are. So in general, when we are talking about, impacts, where we are, we would like to see the numbers. So what's the pulse? What's happening? And in general, based on Lithuanian Banking Association's data, which is collected from financial and credit market participants, in 2020, we collected that it's 4.8 million euro losses for the market participant clients, let's say. And I believe that it's a significant number, looking that we are a Baltic country here. But if we look into 2021, the losses for the first half, it's 5 million euros. So we have the same number, almost the same number for the first half, what we had in the full 2020. And I believe that, there are several reasons behind that. And one of the reasons could be that the fraudsters are, spreading their actually modus operandi towards the clients in more efficient way. Second thing is that clients are still reporting more effectively to the banks, as we are as well raising awareness towards the clients, and they trust us actually and report those cases that we could map, because there is quite a big latent schemes, I would say, that it's not seen if the client is not reporting that one. And the last one, we couldn't have done this without COVID, and that's for sure that our communication is going to electronic environment. All the businesses, directed to electronic environment, and that's why we have those numbers. And I believe that it's a trend that it will increase more and more significantly, and we need to prepare. And this is the right place that, well, we need to discuss and talk. So about the schemes that are trending, and if you look into the circle, I would not make any kind of big surprises here. We have probably well-known schemes that you are all familiar because you are as well operating or you are specialists in the area. So for example, what I would like to mention, the same telephone fraud and how fraudsters are evolving. So 10, 15 years ago, there was a simple cold call, let's say, from the jail by the fraudster to some elderly people stating that, well, your son or daughter went on a car accident and you need to, well, give some savings to the people that will come close to your door. And right now, what Elčin mentioned, we have totally different modus operandi, and we have separate call centers that they are operating 24/7, that they are calling to everyone actually, and well, impersonating bank security employees and willing to, let's say, take all the funds from their accounts. So the modus operandi changed. The schemes are more or less the same, but in general, it's being directed from a bit different way. Today, I would like to focus on a few aspects. So fake invoice, together with fake CEO fraud, and what's the success story through the collaboration. And the second one, romance fraud. So always, well, as an investigator as well, I like those romance fraud stories and how those are, well, continuing and circulating until the end. So, well, the topic would be how once a victim can become twice a victim. And let's get started. So emails, each of us are receiving hundreds of emails per day or thousands per month. And well, we receive them from different parties, external, internal ones, and it's for sure that we are at the moment evaluating those emails from different angle, from more preventive maybe angle, right? But if you would receive a message from the CAO saying that, hey, Linas, could you please transfer 250,000 euros to company X, probably you would think what's happening. But this question or the text is not hypothetical. This happened to one of our clients, of Luminor actually. And then let's say customer was tricked from both sides. So impersonating CAO and impersonating as well, you know, well, providing fake invoice. So those documents and emails were sent to accountant, and well, one thing what's interesting here, that usually the company which was a victim expected to make a contract with the company X that's mentioned here, and everyone in the company actually knew that actually this payment will be done at some point and collaboration will be executed later. So it made no big suspicious here. And with the speed of ROCKIT, the payment was executed on 13th of July. And on the 2nd of August, reached one of Portugal banks. So in general, when you look into that kind of situation and case, it's quite hard to think that this amount, quite significant amount, would come back to the customer account back. So, but what happened? On the 3rd of August, client realized that it's fraud because accountant just sent the email to the CAO stating that thank you for your email. I have executed your request. Now your wallet is a bit thinner. So, well, customer was shocked and he made those proper actions what's needed in case of fraudulent activity. He contacted local police and then Luminor Bank as well. So we had very good cooperation with Lithuanian criminal police towards the case. And later on, we contacted with the bank in Portugal, asking to return the funds back. Well, we were hoping to get money back. It's quite a big amount. Some time passed, but still, this 250,000 euros came back to the customer account on the 4th. On the 4th of August, and customer was very happy. I believe that this is a success story and one of the records that financial institution can face, that you return such a big amount and in the 5 days period. So comparably, it's fast, but from another angle, you can expect anything when the funds reaches another bank. And main takeaways here, what I would like to stress, so one thing is from client side. So fast reaction is one of the key points. What's the most important? The faster he would report to the bank, to the police, the faster the case would be handled. And investment in prevention. So, well, most of the companies think that no need to invest in our security culture, no need to invest into our IT. Well, in this fraud prevention culture, but in general, if the client would invest it in that side, so maybe we could have avoided such situation. And from institution perspective, and as well, this is very linked to Elčin's topic. So close cooperation between law enforcement during the investigation, and as well cooperation between the banks in correspondent banking relationship, it could be the key based on trust and based on the speed that they are operating. So this is one thing what I wanted to just stress and share, like from a success story perspective and from the case management perspective. How once a victim can become twice a victim. And well, from Lithuania to Adriatic Sea, it's 2,500 kilometers. But we are not here in the lesson of geography. We are talking about fraud. And when we have fraud, we have a fraudster's profile. So in this case, the fraudster is engineer and operating in a platform of Adriatic Sea, well, for oil extraction, and asks to lend money to transfer to free people in order to fix that platform because it's exploded or something happened. So this is one story, and let's park it here. Second story is related with, again, geography. So from Lithuania to Yemen, it's almost 5,000 kilometers. And we have different fraudster profile. So now the fraudster is German doctor orthopedic surgeon on United Secret mission in Yemen, and his daughter, minor daughter in Germany, had an accident and he wants to return home, therefore asked to send money because he's on a secret mission and United Nations, well, cannot fund him way back to Germany. So two very interesting stories from the fraud perspective, but what's in common there, that the victim is the same here. So one person fell as a victim in those two schemes, and in both of the schemes she got into relationship through social media channels, is engaged with both remotely, and believes in love and urges bank to transfer those funds as soon as possible because it's very important. In one case, the platform exploded. In another case, minor daughter in Germany of this United Nations doctor, orthopedic surgeon, happened something. So, and well, in the first case, we have identified that this is fraud internally and contacted with customers stating that, well, look, it could be fraud. It sounds like a fraud. You may think twice before releasing those funds. And in general, customer said, yes, okay, I will not make a payment. And we felt that everything is successful, everything is fine. But after a few months, we identified that the same customer again fell in love with different fraudster. And this is the story, so how you can fall under romance fraud twice, because fraudsters are using psychology of the victims. And well, if you believe once, if you are on the same social media channels, if you are still searching, if you are still doing that, and if you are, well, a bit weaker, let's say, from psychological perspective, then there is a chance that you could fall as well under the same activities. But there is no gender in this situation. There is no age in this situation. Everyone could become a victim. And my main takeaways as well from that kind of case would be that technology in the banks, technology from the bank side plays a really crucial role, because we can identify suspicious or unusual activity of our client. Looking from this perspective, for example, client is making payments for utilities every day and suddenly starts making payments to Yemen. So probably this is not usual to the customer as well. Probably the amount is not the same as for utilities. So technology plays crucial role, and education and awareness programs are as well very important, because I believe that as far as we are here, we will raise awareness and we will not stop, because it's never-ending story, as the fraud will not stop here. So, yeah, and thank you very much for the listening. I hope that you had some takeaways, and if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I would like to answer them.
Thank you, thank you. So the main learning for the second point was that you shouldn't fall in love too often into fraudsters, right?
This can be as well, yeah.
Thank you. So do you have any questions in the audience? Yeah.
And I have a question because I come from Chile, and we often see these even same stories. They have translated things from Russian to Spanish. And what I wanted to say is that what I see here is that mainly the fraud is committed inside of or outside of the responsibility of the bank, because actually the bank itself has deployed all the systems to make the transactions, but actually the CFO, or let's say the CEO, has been supplanted inside of a company, sends a message inside of a company, and someone from the company takes the decision to send the funds, right? In that perspective, there's no failure from the systems of the bank, and so the bank is kind of not responsible for the fraud. Though I see a very good, communication with the financial, or let's say from the entities from the government to recover those funds. And this was my question mainly: how did you got such a good communication with these institutions in order to ask a Portugal bank, a bank from Portugal, to send the funds back? Is there, let's say, a modification in the law that allows to block the funds in Portugal because the funds are there and they're not able to take the funds unless the customer will give the instructions and retrieve it, unless maybe the bank think it is a fraud and then they can take it and send it back?
Thank you. Indeed, very good question and very good topic. So maybe I will split your question into two parts. So one thing is about responsibility of the bank. Definitely, it's not customer responsibility here in such situations. The bank is not saying that, oh, you gave your data, so good luck. No, we are responsible here. We are educating customer. We are directing him if he doesn't know where to go, what to do, what's the first aid, what's the actions from his side to be initiated in case such activity, if it was not identified prior. And the second thing is this cooperation with the banks. Not all the stories ends up in this successful situation, and the banks communicate through official channels, between each other, and it depends on the situation. So here, I believe that the Bank of Portugal identified that probably beneficiary name and account probably could not match, or the amount is too big and not usual for the customer. And in that perspective, he could evaluate the situation that yes, it's not usual activity for our client, and if the bank from abroad says that it's a fraud and we identify according to our red flags, then there are no doubts to return those funds. So I believe that this was the key here.
What would be the recommendation from the bank, or the lesson to be told from the bank to the customer not to repeat the same? Because this is a matter of how they behave inside of a company, no?
Yeah, as well, very good question. And when we are educating the customers, we're saying one thing: to invest in internal fraud prevention culture, meaning that, not everything what's business should be directed to business. So you should evaluate what kind of emails you are receiving, how you are evaluating those emails. And the most important thing is to follow common accounting rules that you are paying your invoices. So through official chain of approvals, like it is described in official procedures of the company. And you should not skip any of the procedure because you have received the email from CEO. Yes, it sounds important. It sounds, very nice that CEO is writing to you directly saying that, hey, could you please help me? You may receive some bonus on that case because of efficiency. But my recommendation would be to talk twice with accountant, to talk twice with the CEO, to call him, to write him, not to reply to the email, but check from the official contact list in the company yes, you can do so. So it would be even better than to say, okay, I executed your payment and good luck. So yeah, this is my recommendation here.
Thank you for sharing those tips. I just like mentally noted many things down for myself as well when I'm asking my people to make large transfers. So thank you again, and there is some present as well.
So moving forward, yes, and Taavi, the floor is yours. We are really interested to hear what Estonia have been done and to hear about your project, AML Bridge. So please step ahead.
Thank you. I'm Taavi again. This time I want to tell the story. Estonians usually, when they have a problem, they think that technology helps. Sometimes it does, but not always. So I really enjoyed the previous speakers talking about, not about technology, but actually collaboration and intelligence. So I need to take the technology part this time again. So I want to tell the story about Bridge, Estonia. Data exchange, FinCrime data exchange platform and community that we created. And I want to tell how we see it evolving over the time also across the Baltics. Just need to go back 1 year from today. Exactly last September, we had just idea about data sharing platform between the banks and between the fintechs, how to mitigate financial crime. So we didn't have a bank's commitment. We didn't have commitment from the regulators. We didn't have any legal analysis done how legally to do data exchange between the banks and fintechs. We didn't have any product. We just had a bare idea just one year ago. And but we knew we had a recipe and a formula how to build great things. Because me and my co-founders, like we were part of the early phase Skype and part of the early phase TransferWise or Wise, and now we built our own company. And we knew that in order to do great things, you need to dream really big and you need to set great missions. But you need to start very small with very, very small steps. And you need to repeat and iterate and do these steps one by one really, really frequently. So instead of building something really huge, like maybe Microsoft could do, we started as a startup, our journey. And basically, quick snapshot, like in October last year, we signed the contract memorandum of understanding with the 4 banks of Estonia. We got FSA, FIU, Data Protection Agency to support us, to advise us, not to sign anything because they don't sign these things, but just to advise us as experts. And this summer, actually, we got not only 4 banks, but actually 7 banks to sign the contracts to start using the technology, the platform, which was ready by that time. And today, like every day, banks are exchanging messages about the potential crime. So this is my favorite Slack channel in Salv, which doesn't tell you much, but this is like a encoded list of the messages that are exchanged between the banks. So like you see that there are like many messages being sent from one bank to another. The other bank responds back to them, and there is like real hints like behind these numbers and codes about potential crime, about victims, about like maybe enhanced due diligence. We don't know what is exactly in there, but we see that they're exchanging information, and that's huge win that we achieved in less than 12 months. And actually during that time there were like many achievements that we had to build before getting into this live mode. So like there was legal analysis, official confirmations from the bank side, like from legal teams, data security, data privacy teams, building technology, testing it with a fake simulated data, doing the penetration testing, many things that we had to achieve before getting to this final stage. And now we have a couple of things still to be done, and there are lots of great ideas what to do in the next phases of this work. And actually, if you look at like how this product looks like, it's like every other web application. Nice web page, you can log in, super good design. You can send encrypted messages between the banks, between the teams of the FinCrime, between different teams, AML, fraud, like KYC, due diligence teams. And it works, and it looks simple maybe. But actually behind it, how to get there, it's like lots of the wheels and lots of the components that have to work in the same rhythm and at the same time. So it's not only about building a web page that people can log in and send messages, but it's also about figuring out how to meet data protection requirements, how to comply with existing AML regulations, how to do the IT integration, IP whitelisting, how to deal with the public interest, what are the customers thinking about this kind of exchange, what do the criminals think about this kind of exchange, and so on and so on. And it took actually the best part of the 1 year went into figuring out these kind of questions and getting everyone into sync, writing this down, building technology, understanding the laws. And that was the hard part of the work actually. Also about moving on with the really small steps, we had great ideas coming from the banks and fintechs. What would be all the different information data points that could be exchanged, what frequency, blacklists, single messages, real-time, non-real-time, automated, manual. And we had to focus on the smallest piece that we can do. Again, to move on fast, we selected one type of the information, which is RFI, request for information, which actually means that there are two sub-use cases. One is exactly that was discussed today earlier, that scam schemas, where one customer of one bank is being cheated. This one customer sends money to the next bank, and the next bank customer sends to the fintech. And how to catch these fraud scam cases super fast, as the money is moving on in seconds. People are setting up the bank's AML teams and FinCrime teams. They're setting up the workforce which is focusing in real time on these movements and their messaging between each other. And the second use case, which is also resolved with the product now, it's if one bank has a question, more wider AML investigations going on, has a question about customer, the background, validating the truth of the information that customer shared, they can always ask it from the other bank, and the other bank answers it. And these are the two use cases which are now exchanged between the 7 banks in Estonia, which is pretty much 99% of the market. And it took only, as I said, 1 year to get there. And now the question is this was one tiny country and one tiny ecosystem, but think about across the Baltics, what we can do together in the next year. All the talent that we have here in Vilnius, talent that we have in Riga, power that we have in Estonia, if we work together to build up something, stopped again, something greater than this initial pivot. So we can maybe change the batteries again. Just a second. Yep, sorry, back. Okay, and the point is that the criminals don't stop in one country, or they don't stop at the borders. It's great if Estonia does something well, if Lithuania does something well, but actually criminals are working in the networks, as discussed before. And if we are working in the country silos, we're not able to stop it. The money goes to Portugal. Sometimes we can stop it, that's great, but quite often we cannot, and that's bad. And that's why we need to build this regional connection. That's also why FATF, the global regulator or advisory, they are saying that private-to-private data sharing must be here, and countries must force their banks and fintechs to exchange data between themselves and between the countries as well. And we have a great understanding that we can do it. And here in Baltics, we can be the regional leader and show for the rest of the Europe how it goes, because we are facing similar crime patterns. We have the same cultural background. We have the same corporate. Bigger organizations, smaller organizations work together, so we have super good ecosystem actually to build up this data sharing technically also between ourselves. And we can lead it here in Europe, we can lead it across the world. This is a new thing, this is innovation. That's in some other countries it's resolved on the country level, but not on the regional or global level. And we're best place to do that, and through that we can connect not only 7 banks or 7 fintechs, but actually tens and tens of fintechs and banks across the region. And we could talk not about tens of messages sent, but hundreds of messages and thousands of messages. And we have it here, we have the technology is already here, and we have the people here who can do that. So that's why just I encourage people who are more interested in that, like you can just sign up for the monthly newsletter that we keep sending out about the progress, news, technology members. You can also set up the AML Bridge demo for yourself, for your own company, organization, so like everyone can access who have some licenses at least, not the criminals themselves. And just grab some of, like myself or some of my colleagues, and let's have a chat, and you're welcome to join. You can join as a country, but you can also join as a company, a single company with this network, because it's not only about technology, it's also about people network and the trust that we're building, as I started today's discussion as well. Like if you have good technology, but you don't trust the other side, other parties, then it's wasted money actually. So that was all from me. Thank you.
Or you can ask questions right on the way. So does anyone have any question for Taavi? Anyone?
Regarding GDPR, because actually my concern is how this interact with GDPR, because I presume that the sessions to enter the system are only secluded to some financial institutions through special accesses, but what you can share and what you can't.
Thank you. This is like almost always the first question I'm getting about this. And the point is that actually GDPR, we need to take it into account definitely, and banks do need to take it into account. But the point is that GDPR is just a general guidance which says that you shouldn't exchange information about your customers if there is no good reason for that. And like that's a personal interest. I don't want my information to be shared, but actually there is always support coming from the AML laws, like from the country laws, which are saying that if it's suspicious transactions, if it's like a possible crime that you're preventing, then it gives you right to exchange information up to the level that's needed, no more than needed, but up to the level that's needed. For this case, you can always ask what's needed, what's not needed, and there is like debate going on, but there is no predefined yes or no. It's more about like common sense, practical, and that's something that people in the private sector keep learning, that actually they can do things, this data sharing, if they have a good reason. And also people in the data protection agencies side, they say that, come on, you're the experts of the crime fighting, go and exchange whatever you need to. So that's really, really good support actually from the government sector as well that we see. Okay, that's all. We're almost, we're actually running out of the time of the first session. But now, next part is actually panel discussion. So please give us a few minutes to prepare, gather for the people who will participate in the panel, and then we start in like 2 or 3 minutes. Just give us some time. Thank you.
Sakiau, kažkas neveiks.
About ourselves, yes.
Yeah, just few sentences, then I start with the questions.
Viens, šitas veikia. Viens. 4. Viens. Labai jautrus turi būti.
Alio.
Gerai.
Tai viskas jau galime išsiskirstom. Galime eiti jau. Serious person, yeah. That's why it's so serious.
Month of 3. Let's gather back to the room so we can start the panel discussion. If we can take off the music, then I can. Thank you. So just logistical ask for the people who are watching us over the YouTube channel. I heard that there are several good questions written down in the YouTube as well. As we're quite tight on time, we don't have time to answer the questions here now, but I will definitely write back to you and answer. So please keep them coming. So if you have more questions about the previous talks or the panel that's starting here now, please write your questions down in this YouTube channel that you can watch and listen, and then we will cover the answers over there later on. So thank you for the active participation. Okay, but now we move on with the panel discussion. I know that we have super experienced people who each of you can spend easily 1.5 hours talking about your areas. So let's be constructive and give time to other people to speak as well. So in our panel, we have 4 great experts here. Eimantas, that you met already. Reda Stanice, head of AML division, Bank of Lithuania. We have Andrius Merkelis, head of AML working group from Fintech Hub LT. And we have Greta Barkos-Kiene, chief investigator of analysis division at the Financial Crime Investigation Service. So before we go into the questions discussion topic, I just give you a few words to introduce yourself briefly to the audience, and then you will also know better who these people are. Also, I suspect that most of you know you anyway, but yeah, over to you.
Hello. As I mentioned, I am Greta Barakauskina. I work as a chief analyst in the analysis division under Anti-Money Laundering Prevention Board of Lithuanian FAU. I've been working for a while in this area, and as I encounter other types of STRs, I also encounter fraud and investigate fraud closely with the private sector, so I'll be happy today to share my insights on this area.
Hello, my name is Reda Stanita. I'm head of AML division in the Bank of Lithuania. So we are responsible for supervision in terms of AMLs of financial institutions.
Hello to everybody. Thank you for having me here. And I'm representing fintech sector as the head of working group within the Fintech Hub Association, and with small experience in a little bit more than 14 years in ML area.
Hello, fourth time I believe. I don't have so much experience as Andres have, but I'm still already have, I believe, 7 years in AML and in financial crime. Currently, I'm leading Center of Excellence of AML and representing Center of Excellence, and I'm happy to be here today and to discuss all this really hot topic.
Thank you. And just to kick off the discussion here, like one question that I think in these days there is no seminar or panel which doesn't cover it, which is the COVID has changed the world and the way how we live and how we work and do things. So we need to ask something around that as well. But in our sector, in our world, there is also huge fintech revolution going on, and it's not only about fintechs as a companies, but actually new financial technologies which are coming out, the faster payments, like instant payments, payment APIs, new payment service providers, financial technology companies, new models, and so on, combined with COVID and isolation, people sitting at home. How do you think that all these two new things which are happening quite rapidly has changed the crime scene and crime fighting scene? Like, what are the new trends? What are the new worries that we should look forward to prevent, based on your experience and the work that you do on the daily basis? Like, maybe Eimantas, you can start with elaborating, and then others can follow up.
Yes, for sure. It's definitely changed the landscape, yes, the whole landscape. And we saw today earlier Linas' presentation, and the numbers of fraud increased at least 4 times, yes, at least 4 times. Just in one quarter, you're having all the rest of 2020. And probably if we would see 2019, it would be even less, yes, in 2019. And there are probably a lot of reasons why it is, probably. And I would like to talk today about 2. So first of all, as you said, so lockdown, people are locked down, and here is from 2 sides, yes. So from first side, we see that people are locked down, they're losing jobs, yes. So we need to do something. We need to somehow to find, from this point of perspective, we see that they starting to sell the accounts which we had at the banks and so on, etc. And this is coming really new typology, because in previous it was quite easy to identify fraudsters with money mules, yes, because usually the person opening account, very fresh, very new, the money comes in, money comes out, and quite easy. Now money comes into the accounts which used to be used 3 years, 4 years, so now it's totally new, totally separate new, and this is quite big challenge for financial institution. From another point, we have, again, the same lockdown. We have people who still working, just working from home. We're not going anywhere, so we're usually buying everything internet. We're not spending so much money, so what it is, so we're starting to look other alternatives, starting to look where to invest money. And here, fraudsters, it's also a very good example of how to do. And I believe we had confrontation here in Lithuania spring, and Andrews knows about this confrontation very well, and police was telling about new fraudster scheme, yeah, where German persons was investing and etc. So again, so whereas this kind of thing with COVID and etc. helps for fraudsters, for financial crime to develop, and new technologies, what was also touched today, like Insta payments, again, the same. So in previous, you had at least 3 hours gap till the money will be officially come in other banking, other financial institution. Now, money goes instantly. So again, time is crucial. So we, as fraudsters, starting to use financial technology, we also need to start using financial technology in order to fight them.
Thank you. Any other thoughts about, yeah?
I can share and to support what Eimantas has said, that we, at the Bank of Lithuania, also experience the same, actually, because we are not responsible for investigations of fraudulent activities. However, people who have been frauded, so they come to the regulator and said, hey, your supervised entity, you know, I just had losses. So, and if I can give some statistics, let's say if we had last year we had 100 complaints regarding fraudulent activities. So this year we already have 170. So but we have 3 months ahead. So numbers are saying something to us.
Do you want to comment that? Anything?
Nothing special to add on, because as a Lithuanian FAU, we also receive information and requests to investigate the situation, as the number of people ending up in the fraud scheme is increasing. Yes.
But like I'm getting worried about this fraud, not because of the fraud itself, but actually when thinking, I was running AML team in TransferWise years ago and fraud team years ago, and they were always not in fight but in different opinion, like which is more important and which is more complex, and like there's like fraud and AML, actually there is a big difference. And the worry I had back then was like, if people focus too much on the visible fraud, then they lose attention of their true money laundering, because the money laundering no one complains about, like customers are not calling to you or anyone. So like, what's your take on this? Like, can it be actually major risk, not on the people's wallet only, but actually on the institutions, financial institutions, and also the government sector, that there's too much pressure from the victims of the fraud and banks losing money, and actually the true focus goes away from the core money laundering, which is like 100 times or 1,000 times bigger but less visible problem. Have you maybe Greta, like if the SDRs that you're seeing, there are more, but are they lower quality SDRs, or like what's your feeling on that?
As the financial sector is expanding, I believe the challenge here is the qualified AML officers, because we need the knowledge and we need know-how to track the potential fraud faster. And of course, when we have this question of separating money laundering and fraud, it is the matter of focusing, since we have to focus ourselves not only on fraud, as you mentioned, but also on money laundering. But when it comes to money laundering investigations, they are very difficult and they might be time consuming. So it's a matter of priorities in private sector and the public sector as well, I believe.
Andrus, you're coming from the sector which is taking all the good MLROs away from the banks. Okay, is the fintech sector guilty for the fraud and AML money laundering?
Yes, of course, we are guilty for everything what will happen, yeah? It's a joke, yeah, by the way. Just to know that. Yeah, I should say, if getting back a little bit what Eimantas mentioned, I think everybody, when we're speaking about this increase of fraud, we're speaking about COVID, yeah? And I would say that maybe COVID is not a root cause of increase of fraud. I think is an accelerator of that. Let's agree that already a few years we are living in different societies. So it means less cash. Some countries already started talking about cashless world and so on and so on. So what it means? It means everything, it was just a question of time when the majority of all actions, all activities of our customers, people, society will move from, how to say, hard copies and hard papers and cash to the, how to say, electronic money and so on and so on. It was just a question of time, yeah? Internet shops and whatever you can call it. So, but let's ask us whether it's fraud something new. No, it all we had very huge number of fraud all time, yeah. But whether it's better that it moves a little bit to the switch direction and it moved to the financial sector. I would say that looking from FOU perspective and looking from regulatory perspective, they will say, oh, it's really bad, yeah? Looking from police perspective, I would say that maybe it's better because when cash, they don't leaving so much trace, yeah? In case of electronic money, it leaves some trace, it's possible. And I always saying, when customers were saying, okay, so what will be difference if somebody will steal my wallet with cards and will take some money or will use, and if somebody will steal my wallet with cash? I would say that let's imagine what is your perspective to get back your cash and what is perspective to get back your money from which were used, which were taken by used your credit card. Yeah, so it's much more possibilities, yeah, and at the same time, it's much more possibilities to investigate, to get back money, and so on. So what's so is it something new? No, new methods, new opportunities, maybe for us and as specialists and I don't know, law enforcement agencies. But fraud always, I think everybody, if to compare fraud and AML, I would say. I could say by using words from one of the famous books, yeah. At the beginning it was the word, yeah. So at the beginning it was a fraud. It's always worse, but after that it came ML, and hopefully ML and ML specialist helps to fight fraud more effective than previously. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Yeah.
Probably just adding and going back to your concrete question about should be separate or together fraud and anti-money laundering. So it's a very hard question, and I believe it's up to everyone, each financial institution, to set up their teams, how they should work. I would say, personally, in my opinion, it definitely should be the all special processing team should be under first line of defense, under one department or one division. But still, it can be separate at least in the teams, because usually even the systems are different. So we have one system for fraud, we have one system for anti-money laundering, and etc. So I would say it's not the best practice regarding systems. It would be perfect if everything would go under one system, because it's easier to find everything and to find more red flags and etc. But still, it's up to financial institution to set up their own, yeah.
Your thoughts reminded me, I think these numbers are pretty well known for the most of the audience, that the overall amount of money laundering which is happening every year, it's hard to estimate, but it's about 4 trillion euros or dollars per year, which is about the size of German economy, annual economy, and only 1% of it is being found somehow or prosecuted. And then I'm thinking about the numbers that we heard today, like 400,000 or 250,000, which is like material money for the individuals, but actually, if I'm comparing with the overall money that's getting laundered every year, it's like unimaginable comparison. So there must be, between this visible fraud and the true money laundering, there has to be like huge gap still that we're looking to find. About finding, you mentioned systems, but is there a problem also with the people or talent, lack of talent, lack of skills, experiences, education in that sector? Like, Reda, do you have any thoughts or insights, because you're looking from the like wider perspective that, yeah, we all as entrepreneurs, we want to hire the best people in the market, and we're chasing always. But from your perspective, do you need a broader perspective? Maybe there are enough people already, or?
You know, it's a good question and a very relevant question, actually. But from regulators' point of view, so we do not have, you know, indicator or measures to understand if the competence is okay. Because for me, competence is something that is not stable and not static. It's progress, it's learning constantly. Because, you know, I think the best indicator to evaluate the competences, and I'm not talking only about financial institutions employees, but I also am talking about the police, regulators' competence. So it's losses. Because if we have a lot of losses, so our competence maybe it's not okay. So because I agree with Eimantas and other colleague that gave a presentation that technologies, globalization, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for financial institutions and as well for regulators. So that's why perpetrators and criminals, so they use the situation. And we always have to be one step ahead. So that's why the competence is something that we have to grow. And how to grow, so that is a question. So I think this event is also growing our competences and sharing experiences. And, you know, if I may say that what is the, you know, key element in fighting fraud, terrorist financing, money laundering, so I would say that compliance culture, because compliance mindset from the top management. Because if the top management is not able and is not maybe aware of the risks, so or do not want to see risks, and I'm not talking about these situations when somebody close eyes, but I'm talking about this in tolerating all the red flags regarding fraud, regarding money laundering. So I'm talking about these situations. So compliance culture is something that has to be in the company from regulators' point of view. And if you have a compliance mindset, so then you will have experienced employees, then you will have advanced systems and robust procedures. So, and you will dedicate resources for growing that competence to be one step ahead the criminals.
And is the main way how to build this compliance culture from the regulator's point of view is just to warn them and like to get them to apply for hard licenses to train up the competence and mentality? Or like do you have secret key how this mindset should be built up for the people who are not here? I think people who are here have already right mindset, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But the people who are not here, like will you start finding them if they're not part of the ROCKIT events? Or
No, but we're using, from the regulator side, so we are using many different supervisory tools. So including fines, so and including meetings, including meetings with the compliance officers, so consultation. So we're trying all things to prove that compliance and the risk mitigation measures are very important in the financial institution.
Do you guys representing public sector, private sector, do you feel the support enough?
I'm kind of representing public and private, half. But anyway, yeah, so I agree what Reda said and totally agree. However, I would like to step back a little bit, and I 100% support that culture comes from the top management, yes, but I would say that we should start learning this from the beginning, when we are starting to learn anti-money laundering, yes. And what we have right now in Lithuania, yes, we have FinTech Center. No one argues with that. I believe you can really ask, and we are totally FinTech sector. FinTech sector need really qualified employees, as you mentioned at the beginning. Andrew's stealing all money laundering reporting officers, yes. But coming back more serious, in addition, we have 3 big competence centers. It means Danske Bank, Western Union, Guidehouse is coming. They all need anti-money laundering officers. And from another point of angle, what we have, do we have any training system? No, I know Danske Bank had, and they were training but they were training only just their own employees, yes, and kind of makes sense. And here we are missing the part, the puzzle, yes, and our aim as a Center of Excellence is really to fulfill this need, and we aiming to start to discuss with universities, first of all. As I said, the mindset should come from the beginning, and to say that, okay, guys, we see the huge need. Maybe we should start the basics in the university, at least some course or whatever. We planning, in addition, to create the programs, the learning programs for the market participants, because if you will try to have this international, either ACAMS, ICA, or any other, it is expensive, and it's quite challenging for financial institutions to invest so much money. So yeah, I can't agree, but as I said, it should be start to learn from the beginning.
May I a little bit oppose or not oppose, but yeah, just when we're talking about this voice from the top, yeah, and when we're talking about education, they are, from looking from my point of view, they are a little bit interrelated, yeah. And how? I will try to explain. Please raise your hand if somebody from you ever heard your CEO is talking like this. You know, we don't need to fight this fraud. Yeah, who cares about this fraud? Yeah, we don't care about that. Any heard about that? Somebody? No? Okay. So yeah, everybody's talking about the same. Yeah, we are not competitors here. We are fighting fraud. Fraud is a very bad thing. ML as well. Yeah. As any other illegal activities. But at the same time, when somebody wants to, when, I don't know, head of compliance or MLRO is coming to the board and saying, okay guys, I want to buy some trainings. I want to provide trainings, and your employees should spend one working day or something like that. And here you will hear the true voice from the top. Do we really need that? Really? But all good. We don't have any fines from regulators and so on. So please always think about that, and especially, and here I think is the real voice from the top. Not like, you know, of course we are fighting fraud. Yeah, everybody's fighting fraud, yeah, because it's good. We are right people in the right place. We must fight, but trainings are interrelated, and you will see. If somebody is investing, if company is investing, if company is organizing, if company is keen on trainings on new, I don't know, new methods and so on. And by the way, if you let me, 1 minute, yeah? So how you can understand when your fraud prevention is good or not. So if you, when we're talking about fraud, did you investigate fraud or did you prevent fraud? And here you will hear very good voice from the top as well, yeah, because if you will say, okay, I saw a very beautiful Salv system which will help you to prevent fraud and so on and so on, yeah, and hopefully, let's imagine and let's hear what your board members will say. Really, but it's very expensive. Really, how many fraud situations we had during previous year? 2, 3? Okay, come on, do we really need to invest this money? And it means organizations just follow, how to say, they just investigate fraud, but they are not preventing fraud. This is another example of, how to say, did you have this voice from the top? Yeah, so sorry for my long speech.
This is like really hard situation for the private sector, because like it's, when again looking at the numbers, like is it 100 billion spent by the banks and fintechs in Europe every year for the compliance activities, and like most of it goes into people, and like smaller
and efficiency is very
yes,
small.
And, like,
yeah.
And when you're going to, like, someone is going to their CEO and asking to add more money, then it's like answer is quite obvious that come on, your budget is anyway like pushed by the regulator to be high as possible, maybe. So like what would be the solution? Like one thing is to spend more and to do more things, to hire more people to do the manual operations, to like instead of 10 you hire 20 and 100 people to do the manual things. Other option is like to become more effective. Again, it sounds like a buzzword, but today we have been talking about collaboration on different level as a community, like expertise, technology, countrywide, across the countries. So, like, I'm thinking, Greta, from your point of view, like it's SDRs working through this information. Do you see any remarks or signals of the collaboration behind the SDRs on your level? I have a hypothesis that maybe if SDR is built together by multiple organizations, like, or there is more intelligence behind it, it makes your work easier, or maybe not. Like I haven't seen any SDRs from myself from receiver side.
Naturally, as a representative of Lithuanian FAU, I am hoping for best quality SDRs. And of course, it reflects very heavily if the AML officer from the private sector has strong skills in analysis and he can detect the potential fraud, or let's say even the money laundering. It is visible in the SDR because it makes, of course, naturally, it makes my work easier because half of the job is already done. And naturally, wanting to receive more quality SDRs, as I might say, we encourage communication with the Lithuanian FAU. We encourage sharing the knowledge, sharing the typologies, and looking into the insights that we have to provide. And therefore, we are very happy when we see the quality of SDRs improving and people taking into consideration the tips from us that they might receive, because we are very keen on cooperation in contacting the Lithuanian FAU if we have questions and the situation is not clear. So.
Sorry, I must ask this question because you reminded me. In Estonia, elsewhere as well, like, but in part of Estonian ecosystem, there is always debate that, okay, companies are making their SDR reports to the FIU, but they never get back anything meaningful. Like there are quarterly or annual reports that, yeah, we got so many SDRs, but what was good, what was bad, they don't get anything. Like, do you agree that you would like to? Is it the problem here as well, or you would like to give like thumbs up or thumbs down, thumbs up for every SDR that you're getting? That, okay, this is high quality, this is low quality, or some kind of feedback to the reporters from your end, which would help us a lot.
Yes, we are pretty aware of how frustrating it is to provide the work and not to get the feedback. So we are working on it that in most cases, the subjects reporting to us will receive the feedback. Of course, the number of SDRs is growing immensely, and of course, we cannot promise that in every case the sender would get the feedback, but we are working our best and trying to give the thumbs ups for the good analysis and good investigative work. And of course, when there's an area for improvement, we even ourselves take initiative and contact the officers. And some of you might been contacted by me in the past, and then we had nice conversation of what could be done. Hopefully, in the future, we have more capacity in giving the feedback, because it would, I think, bring the satisfaction for the officer that did immense work as well.
May I add something here? Yeah. So just to add about SDRs and about ML and fraud, getting back a little bit, but about SDRs. So what is the main, how to say, if we're talking about technology, fraud prevention, and ML, what is the main obstacle to understand when it's good, how to say, too much or not? So in case of fraud, it's very easy to understand. You just, if your system just raised a red flag, you calling your customer and saying, are you the person who's now sitting in US and spending some money? Yeah, and no, I'm in Lithuania. So it's fraud, it's obvious, yeah? So in case of ML, it's not so easy. In case of money laundering cases, it's not so easy to say, yeah? And tipping off and other issues and so on. So you cannot just call and say, okay, could you please prove, are you laundering money or not? Yeah, or something like that. It's impossible. That's why I think it's maybe that's why it's a problem how to how to connect fraud prevention and anti-money laundering. Maybe, I don't know. But in case of fraud, just usual fraud cases, it's easier to detect, to understand whether it's really fraud. Yeah. In case of money laundering, you're just guessing. Yeah. And you, of course, you expect that your FIU will call you and say, okay, you are the perfect reporter, and you did the best ever STR. Yeah. So that's.
I'm just thinking in the collaboration context and the worry that you have that too many STRs are incorrect or like false positive rate is too high, and at the same time companies are spending too much money for being compliant, and finding those is like conflict or problem from both ends. And that's like trying to learn what kind of collaboration do we need to become more accurate with like reducing the false positives and increasing the true positives. Can these kind of events happen? I hope that they happen a bit. But do you have any other suggestions how collaboration between the institutions, private and public, private could help to become more effective in that field?
I can probably start, and please add if you have. So we have perfect example here in Lithuania. Yes. So we, I truly believe that public-private partnership in general is a perfect example how you can increase the quality of employees, increase the quality of STRs, and so on, etc. Because we have a majority of sides involved. So I mean, we have FIU, we have FSA, we have financial institutions, law enforcement, and so on, etc. And only sitting together, thinking maybe sometimes out of the box, because what we have right now we have approved red flags, and theoretically, financial institution can report suspicious activity report if any of this red flag is reached, yes, and they are really some generous. So maybe we need to start thinking a little bit wider. So maybe we should not so focus on the red flags and so on, etc. So it's still, I believe, big discussion, and big changes can be made later on, because all what we're doing right now was created 10, 15, 20 years ago, probably, yes, all the system, how it's working. So maybe we need to think a little bit different. Maybe we need to think, just working together and trying to view into everything from different angle.
Anyone wants that?
I can add that, that's why the Bank of Lithuania was very keen on implementing a center of competence in terms of IMLs. It's because we saw that, we have institutions, we have meetings, but, we have to have one center where we can share information, we can sit together, and that's why Eimantas started a good job within this year.
That's really, really great to see also from a bit of distance, like how like nice this kickoff has been and organizing it. So it's not sub-part or like working group under the other organization, but it's actually independent and covering all the participants in the market.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I would say we should all understand that life will not be the same as it was like a few years ago. Yeah, we are living in different world, in different technology, I don't know, mindset and so on. So I think we should all understand that the only way. By the way, we could remember that few days ago it was like decade of very sad accident which happens 9/11. Yeah, we all know. And when we're getting back and analyzing what we see, is it possible? It was possible to prevent, to predict? Yes, it was as it's stated in the documents. The main issue was lack of data sharing, lack of data analysis. So. Totally, no, not totally the same, but similar things we could face now. So many different products, so many good initiatives. I don't know, attractive possibilities in payment system, in acquiring, in payment cards, and so on. So I think we should all understand that if we just follow some, how to say, officially issued rules, officially issued red flags, it's good that they have as a starting point, as the ground. it's okay. But real data sharing, understanding of modus operandi of fraudsters and so on, before it will be publicly available for the same fraudsters, yeah? So only in this, we should understand that system, financial system now is more complicated. Like, you know, in one payment they could participate, I don't know, few institutions and so on. And that's why it's so important instantly exchange data and to all specialists understand what's going on. What's our new way of fraud, what's our new way of money laundering and so on. So we should learn our lessons from all these accidents and bad examples and so on, and go a little bit not behind but ahead fraudsters. Otherwise, it will be we will always talk about follow the money, but not how to say about prevention of fraud and so on.
You're like taking this discussion into the technical solutions, and like I really like this as a mathematician. I like this like simple rule-based approach intellectually, because you have listed 10 or 100 rules about red flags. You just write the code. You don't need spend any people for the AML operational people. You just code will start reporting to Greta. But I'm afraid that you will be quite unhappy, like if you get like only the STRs which correspond to agreed, really smart but still agreed strict rules, and that's it. So there is like intelligence needed in that. And you touched on the financial system becoming more and more complex, which is like for us as consumers, like I really enjoy that. Tons of different cards, different payment methods, paying with a watch, doing all the kind of tricks, recurring automated payments. It's like great pleasure. I can select anyone, but actually, like these organizations themselves are suffering because of the innovation due to the crime. So, what are you touched on the data sharing, information sharing. Maybe you want to elaborate a bit more, or do you have more concrete ideas or examples like about which kind of data points should be exchanged, in what occasions? There was I really like this Luminor example where they got in touch with the Portuguese bank. On the next day they got response already, so I didn't have time to ask the question, but like what was the fancy technology behind, or maybe it was just a phone just to give a call to your friend in another bank. So do you have this kind of deeper insight into technical solutions, how exactly the money laundering should be detected in case of instant payments or in case of API connections with the banks? Or maybe you can elaborate on this topic a bit more. Do you have any ideas how it should be done, or it's called for the tech freaks?
Yeah, I could start. So I think criminals less understand how to say borders. Previously, they were operating, how to say, in one country. Normally, they employing those money mules. They using cash and so on. Now, as much as possible to cross borders, as much as it possible, they will cross these borders. As much as possible to distance, how to say, the initial crime or crime, how to say, points from each other, they will do that. We should do the same in case of data sharing. There should not be any borders. There should not be any time limits or something. It should be instantly, and it should be how to say, cross-border. All this cooperation should be cross-border, because otherwise it's impossible to how to say, to predict, to prevent. This is my opinion.
I agree, but sadly to say, but it's easier to say than to do, because what is the main difference between criminals and the persons who are trying to catch them? So criminals do not follow the law. Yes, it's very simple. For them, they don't care what is the law, what they allow, what's not allowed, and etc. We, and all of law enforcement and etc., we need to follow the rules. Anyway, so an example in Lithuania, yes, right now we can share same customer, same transaction data, yes, and nothing else. And it's very challenging. And we really hope that we will be able to change and just to make it wider and etc. in order to to make it possible to share. I also see some good examples in general in police and in FOU and etc. Europol, yes, it's a gigantic service who's following the money and who's able to share the data and etc. But to sum up, sharing data, cooperation is the key. Without that, it's impossible to do. And we need to follow the rules, but let's think a little bit wider.
Like just when Andrew said about borders and criminals are sending their money across the borders, then I started to think like what are these borders actually, what do they mean for the criminals? Because like, if I'm using fintech like Wise or Revolut or whatever, their license is in Belgium or in here Lithuania. Their servers, like technical servers, are in somewhere in Germany, Frankfurt maybe. They're like they're licensing or they're using the cross-border licensing or passporting of the license across the Europe. So if I'm logging in from Italian IP address and then sending money from euros to USDs, then also as end user, like I don't care about borders at all. So like I don't think, but if the fighters think about borders, that we need to collaborate between Lithuania and Estonia, then it's already very restrictive for us, the thinking. So like maybe you can add like what are the technical challenges, opportunities that are being discussed on the international VIU discussions, or like what are the best practices that are coming out, or have you seen any from central bank side any good ideas, generations, like what is coming up, or is it completely wild west for everyone and there are no good practices yet in this newer and more advanced crime fighting, information exchange technologies?
I can start my part. You know, it's a challenge for regulator, as I said, the globalization, and when you have license in different countries. So we have mechanism, let's say, for sharing information between the regulators. So we have colleges set. So if, let's say, a financial institution is operating more than in 3 countries, so we, on a regular basis, we gather and we share information regarding this company. So that's our cooperation and information sharing.
Speaking on behalf of FAUs, I would like to mention that it all depends on the approach towards the information sharing, and different countries might have different approach. However, we are very happy that our neighboring countries have the same approach as we do, and they have a little difficulty sharing the information, which is a very good thing, and we are very happy about it.
Thank you for that.
Just to add, yes, we could. Of course, there are many in case of cross-border data sharing. Of course, there are many obstacles and legal issues and so on. We could find, but let's imagine if for Google impossible to do whatever they want in case of data sharing, collection, and so on. So why we are looking into how to say? Of course, we should look into that, but maybe let's think globally. Let's as they are doing. Let's say, of course, maybe we could be not just a hub for fintechs, but maybe for data analysis, sharing, or something like that. So I think we should change our mindset and look a little bit from another perspective, a little bit globally, as your organization is doing with this AML Bridge. Yeah. So.
Thank you. It's good final words from you. So I must apologize because like the thoughts that I'm getting from you is so interesting that I always thought that we should finish at 6 o'clock, but now I see from my agenda that we should have finished 50 minutes back already. But thank you for sharing your insights and thoughts, and I really feel that these kind of gatherings make us all smarter. Like the trust building is one key factor for me inside of the crime fighter community. No matter what are the technologies or what are the unions, but if I know the people, I know the faces, I know that they are smart people, then I'm willing to exchange my thoughts and experience. And this is ultimately something that should be the most effective way to beat crime. So thank you all for your thoughts, and we can give you applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that we can finish our official part. We still have time to stay here to get some snacks, some drinks from there. And I hope that ROCKIT wouldn't send away too soon. So enjoy the dinner and have a discussions about crime fighting, but also about other things as well, if you want to. So thank you for coming, and I'm really looking for the next gathering here. Thank you.
Yeah, really, thank you. And please stay here.